politics lead, House Speaker John Boehner was on the House floor today, once again railing against Obamacare.
Our message in the House has been pretty clear. We want to reopen our government and provide fairness to all Americans under the president's health care law.
Has the message in the House really been pretty clear? I'm not sure about that. In an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today, Congressman Paul Ryan seemed to steer away from defunding the Obamacare law specifically, and he proposed instead something of a grand bargain, more general entitlement reforms and tax reform. So did the goalposts just move? Is Obamacare still enemy number one for the GOP? Let's bring in our panel. CNN contributor and Washington correspondent for the New Yorker magazine, Ryan Lizza. Senior advisor for the Ready for Hillary Super PAC, Tracy Seffel. That's our new, that's a new description we have for you. Very exciting. And CNN contributor and former advisor to the Romney campaign, Kevin Madden. Kevin, there was a kind of a, I wouldn't say snarky, but it wasn't without judgment, a tweet from Amanda Carpenter, who is speechwriter, communications director, or communication advisor for Ted Cruz, this morning, noting that the Ryan op-ed did not include the word Obamacare, and it didn't. He was looking for a way out of it, and he didn't talk about Obamacare. Is this where the Republican Party now hopes to go?
Well, I think that you're looking at that. I think he laid out a vision for what happens after the 2014 elections. That may not be the people's most, their greatest desire, but I think 2014, for all intents and purposes, is going to be focused, Obamacare is going to be the center of the universe. So many Republicans right now see it as a vehicle to argue about the economy, to argue about the growth of government, to argue about what Republicans can do to draw contrast with their Democrat opponents. So I think when I looked at that op-ed from Paul Ryan today, I said, this looks like what the future of the Republican Party can be. But right now, I still think it's focused entirely on Obamacare.
Obamacare, the subject that we would all be discussing right now, Ryan, if it weren't for the fact that the government has been shut down and we're facing the debt ceiling.
Look, what happened here is Ryan, Boehner, and Cantor had a strategy for this fall fight, right? Their strategy was use the debt ceiling as leverage to force a major agreement on the big fiscal issues, entitlement reform and tax reform. And it got hijacked, right? It got hijacked by the populist to libertarian right wing of the party with Ted Cruz and some of the outside groups. And they decided, actually, the fight we want to have is over government shutdown and Obamacare. And Boehner was forced to have that fight. Now what it looks like to me is Boehner, Ryan, and Cantor are trying to steer things back to the original battle they wanted. Of course, you know, it's like, you know, you want to be in one battle, but unfortunately you've already led the troops into a separate battle. You haven't finished that one yet, and yet you're trying to fight Obama over here. And that's how Boehner's a little trapped.
Tracy, obviously Republicans have worse approval ratings than Democrats do, worse approval ratings than President Obama, but everybody's numbers are going down. The Dick Durbins of the world are not immune to what is going on. And if we do hit this debt ceiling, at the end of the day, the stock market goes down 1,000 points or whatever, President Obama is going to take the hit.
I believe he has already. It's been a collective hit, as you say. So what happens next? Is there really a bottom for the Republican Party? It seems like they're rapidly going to find out. Historic lows for the party, a laughable single digit for Congress. Overall, it's very interesting to not just watch the trends, but to really try to imagine how low can these numbers possibly get.
I guess the question is with the one I asked Senator Durbin, which is, okay, the House Republican Party, the shutdown happened because of the House Republican Party. Now, you can argue about it's continuing because of all the piecemeal resolutions, et cetera, but the shutdown happened because of them. Does the Democratic Party, does President Obama, do they have an obligation for the sake of the country and even for the sake of themselves to try to help John Boehner out of this mess?
It certainly seems to me that every single day, that is what Democrats are attempting to do, is to remind everyone who's listening how they are willing to get to that compromise, what they're willing to not do, which is, of course, as the president has continued to say, be held hostage, the idea of ransom, all of the analogies that are so continually invoked here. There is that conversation happening. It's what the Democrats are saying every single day.
How do we get out of this, Ryan?
Look, and I think your question is a really good question because, you know, on the right, there are a lot of people who are talking about default is not such a big deal. On the left, there's also there's an argument that if it comes to default, Obama is just going to have to let that happen because it's worse for Obama to negotiate. That's sort of a dangerous position to be in as well.
Sort of.
And at some point, the president is the president. He's the only person in our system that is the president of everyone. And at some point, he's got to help figure a way out of this. Even though, as you point out, it's the blame lies at the House Republicans for getting us into that. But look, you govern Washington with the House of Representatives that you have, not the one that you wish to have.
Very Rumsfeldian. How do we get out of this, Kevin?
Well, look, I think the way that we're going to get out of this is just by punting this. This is the one thing that this Congress has actually been very good at, which is just giving themselves more time. One of the big problems that we have, and I think that's why the American public is so frustrated right now, and I think this is particularly tough for the president, which is that we're governing from crisis to crisis. What we're going to do is get a small Band-Aid approach here, and then we're going to just go on to the next crisis. I think in 3 weeks, maybe even 3 months, we're going to be back again having the same debate over something new.
Another blue ribbon commission, perhaps? A bipartisan deficit commission whose advice is ignored?
Super committee instead of a blue ribbon committee.
Remember, the last one we had, the Simpson Bowles, Republicans wouldn't even allow a vote on it on the Senate floor. I mean, these blue ribbon commissions, I don't even hear people talking about them.
And this is to Tracy's point, too. You know, the usual pressure points that we used to get, which is low ratings starting to make people feel like, hey, you know, we've gone too far. To use one of the congressional aides' term, we touched the stove and it was too hot.
Yeah.
They're not as motivated by these bad ratings. I mean, I think they think that's built into the equation with the media coverage.
It's so much worse than that.
And Republicans have a fortress in the House of Representatives, so they are immune.
We have to break right now. I'm sorry, Tracy. Ryan Lizza, Tracy Seffel, Kevin Madden, thank you so much. We'll